you guys have a stance on the truther movement?
Yes, absolutely we do. And it has been explicated many times in the past, but we're always happy to do it. Mark, why don't you...
I just never heard that. I never
handle
heard
this
you
one.
guys.
Sure. What you're speaking of, the truther movement, generally is what people think about what happened on 9/11 as to whether it was an inside job by government agents or whatever. And our stance is basically that if the government says something, we immediately assume they're lying. And that that many of the stories that we've heard seem fantastic, the ideas of holograms and things like that. I couldn't say. We think that basically the issue doesn't really matter much anymore. It's almost a decade old. That the JFK was assassinated. There's been some stories that have come to light about that. Hasn't really changed anybody's mind about the government, and that the 9/11 is largely irrelevant these days.
We'll come back and let you respond if you want to hear Barry. Hang on. More in a moment with Barry. You asked about the so-called truther movement, and you asked for our thoughts. Now, you got Mark's response, but I want to kind of go around the panel here and give you some other responses, and then allow you to talk back on this one. Would that be all right?
Great. Yep.
All right. Wayne, go ahead with your thoughts on the truther movement.
Well, first of all, the word truther in itself is kind of a smear, as if there's something wrong with the truth. So that makes me a little suspicious.
They call themselves that.
Well, they truth, but then their opponents call them truthers, as if it's a smear, just like you've got the birthers and all those people. So it's actually used as a smear,
Yep.
and so I find that a little bit interesting and suspicious. And like Mark, I feel suspicious and doubtful of any official story the government puts out. But I wasn't there. I don't know. I don't have enough information. I wasn't a witness. I don't know. I've seen some interesting evidence, but again, what are you going to do about it? Even if it is true, it's counterproductive to focus all your time and energy on bringing somebody to justice that's never going to be brought to justice. Better to work on the things you can change, which is in your own communities, in promoting freedom.
Yeah, that's true, Wayne. A lot of the people in the truth movement, so-called, have been, rattling the saber to, bring George Bush to justice. What do you expect? This government that you already don't trust and you don't believe is in any way honoring the Constitution, etc., to actually bring any of these people to justice? I mean, it's pretty much a fantasy.
How is the government going to bring itself to justice? I mean,
can I say something,
sure,
guys?
Sure.
There's a missing element here. I mean, look. There is a possibility that people like I have not said what side of this I'm on, but there's a possibility like a George Bush or a Dick Cheney that they could be arrested and tried in an international sense. There's a very real chance of that. We saw when George Bush was going to go to Switzerland. There's a lot of reports that the reason he didn't go was because Justice Departments in Switzerland and Spain had been given affidavits and were prepared to serve papers, were prepared to arrest these people, and they canceled that trip. Now, I don't know if that story is true, but
I've heard it too.
I think I wouldn't underestimate the possibility, and one thing I would say about it is I'm actually getting ready to go on my own talk show here in a minute, so I got to go. But one thing I would say is the truth is always relevant. It is always relevant. And no, you shouldn't spend all your time on one thing, but that's a pretty big thing.
Well, and it also presumes that the truthers, so-called, actually have the truth. I mean, maybe they aren't. What they have isn't the truth either.
Yeah, they don't have a monopoly on the truth. Why should they have that? But I like your guys' responses. You guys are brilliant as always.
What's your show? Give a show plug.
I do the Barry Paul Show. It's on barrypaul.net, and I do Blog Talk Radio, 10 o'clock Central Time tonight. The Barry Paul Show on blogtalkradio.com.
You got to get off that Blog Talk Radio. It sounds like absolute garbage. I mean, just
I know, because you got to call in.
Technical
but that's something I do to promote. I do a big show on Sunday on barrypaul.net. That's the one. That's the one that's for real. And I do this just to promote that. But
hey, good luck with your program, man, and thanks for listening. Appreciate the call. Thanks for calling in tonight at 800-259-9231. I'm always looking for new content for the Liberty Radio Network, so maybe I'll go check them out and see if it'll fit. Although I don't want the conspiracy shows. I don't know if he's got a conspiracy show. I'm not going to jump to that conclusion. But to answer
is the question he called in with,
right?
Though, right?
So to answer his question from my perspective, I think you guys are all spot on. I think another important point to really focus on is that I believe that the conspiracy movement or the truth movement or whatever you want to call it is dangerous. I believe it's dangerous from the aspect that there's a certain rabbit hole aspect or mentality, I guess, factor here, where if you start in at this one point of, well, I'm questioning the official story of, and I question the official story of 9/11, I just don't really care to go any further than that. Because, as you pointed out, Mark, it's not really relevant to what we're attempting to do here, which is talk about the ideas of liberty, spread the ideas of freedom, encourage people to take action and actually act like freer people and non-cooperate and things like that, and get active, move to New Hampshire, part of the Free State Project. The truth about 9/11 is completely irrelevant to achieving those goals. But beyond that, it's a dangerous movement because it's full of people pushing different conspiracy theories. So you start at one conspiracy theory, and then you end up down the line, into 15 different conspiracy theories.
They don't stop. That's the thing that bothers me the very most about the conspiracy theory mindset. And I'm not saying that everybody who has questions about 9/11 has this mindset, but there are people in the movement that do. That essentially nothing has happened in the last 60 years that wasn't part of the Bilderberger, conspiracy. I didn't read the article. I didn't bother to do it, but I saw some article on Facebook that some of my friends that are Facebook friends that are into this stuff were posting on there that said something to the effect of Alex Jones was saying that, and I don't know this, I didn't listen, I didn't read it, I didn't do anything, just read the headline, that basically Alex Jones was saying that all these Arab uprisings are in fact the global elite's plan. I mean,
it's all a plot.
It's all a plot.
Yeah,
and I just cannot believe that everything from Hurricane Katrina to these uprisings to the 9/11 to the lone gunman in
but that's where
Tempe,
it goes,
whatever,
because
Tucson.
On these conspiracy shows, they have these conspiracy guests, the people that back up their viewpoint on the air, and then you go and you learn more about them, and they take you down the rabbit hole even further into more radical conspiracy theories.
Yeah, it goes on. It gets even worse. I mean, there's lizard people conspiracy theories.
Right. And ultimately, and at some point, somebody's going to stop and say, oh, I can't go any further, but some people will just keep going. And so it's detrimental from that perspective because it just focuses these people who are into this exclusively on uncovering the truth, whatever that is, the truth about everything. We've got to know, who's behind X, Y, and Z, and it's a time sink. People spend, as I mentioned earlier, this all caps conspiracy thing that we talked about earlier in the show with the citizenship and all that. I've spent time looking into it. I mean, I have been sucked in by some of these things in the past, and I found out, after trying to apply the ideas, that it's a bunch of bunk. But it's a very sexy thing, the idea of being able to find out what the truth really is, and to know what many people do not know, to remove the wool from one's eyes about all of the the intricacies and the intrigue in the world.
Take the red pill.
Well, there's a way to take the red pill without having to go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You can take the red pill of understanding what the ideas of liberty are about. You can take the red pill by understanding that government is a violent monopoly. And it doesn't matter who killed JFK. JFK was a bad guy in the first place. I'm not saying it was okay that he was killed, but he's a president, and all the presidents are basically the head thug of a violent organization.
There were definitely a pile of dead bodies around the Kennedys, even around that time.
1-800-259-9231. And beyond that, the viewpoint of the conspiracy world is essentially that everything is being controlled by this dark cloaked group of men and women calling themselves the Bilderbergers or the bankers, or you fill in the blank, and it creates this very defeatist mentality, the mentality that no matter what you do, the elites will always be in control, and so you might as well just live in your mom's basement. It's Free Talk Live.
Justice, it's not about agenda, it's not about mobilizing people, it's about dialing for corporate dollars. These two parties have sold the U.S. government and the American people to the highest bidders.